At 5:13 a.m., in the middle of a winter blizzard, winds howling past 60 kilometers per hour along the Kazennyi Torets River, a fiber-optic controlled FPV drone dropped to just 20 to 25 feet above frozen ground and accelerated beyond 170 kilometers per hour. It ignored the bridge deck, ignored the infantry. Instead, it drove straight into the primary hydraulic hinge of a modified T-80 bridge layer, a vehicle weighing nearly 46 tons, supporting a partially deployed steel span that pushed the total forward load beyond 60 tons. The impact produced a thermal flash lasting less than 0.8 seconds. Hydraulic pressure collapsed. Structural balance failed. With the bridge extended to roughly 90 to 95%, gravity finished the job. The entire assembly snapped forward, dragging the multi-million-dollar platform nose first into frozen mud, blocking the only viable crossing for kilometers. This was not a lucky hit. It was the final move after 96 hours of tracking, probing, and calculated losses. So ask yourself, if one hinge, one moment, and one drone can end an offensive, where does control on the battlefield really come from? At 4:42 a.m., the Kazennyi Torets River wasn't attacked. It was placed under pressure. A winter storm cut visibility to under 150 meters. Winds exceeded 60 kilometers per hour. Ukrainian radio-controlled FPV drones entered the zone one by one, flying no higher than 30 to 40 feet, cruising between 100 and 120 kilometers per hour. On Russian thermal screens, they looked unstable, exposed. That was the point. Within seconds, Russian crews activated Pole 21 and R333ZH GTEL. The spectrum flooded. Control latency spiked past 500 milliseconds. Video feeds fractured. By 4:49 a.m., 5 FPVs had lost link and dropped into the snow. From the Russian side, it felt decisive. Short detonations followed, low-yield impacts near the riverbank. Flashes under half a second. No vehicles disabled, no bridge equipment touched. But positions shifted. Infantry spacing tightened to under 20 meters. 2 MTLB recovery vehicles rolled forward roughly 150 meters, engines glowing hot against the cold. These losses were not mistakes. Every jamming burst revealed coverage depth. Every muzzle flash painted a thermal marker. Every engine rev exposed a support roll. Ukrainian operators, watching from over 5 kilometers away, logged response times down to the second. By 4:55 a.m., Russian commanders were confident. The weather favored them. Electronic warfare was working. Ukrainian drones were falling predictably. What they didn't see was the pattern forming. Ukraine wasn't trying to break the crossing. They were training the defenses, forcing reactions and recording every one before the real strike. By 4:56 a.m., the storm no longer felt hostile. It felt like cover. Ukrainian FPVs stopped appearing. Jamming stabilized. Losses were low. From the command vehicle, the assessment was simple. The window was open. The order went out to move. A modified T-80 BVM bridge layer advanced to the riverbank, engine temperature climbing past 400 degrees Celsius, its heat signature unmistakable against the snow. 2 MTLB recovery vehicles followed, stopping within 40 to 50 meters of the waterline. Steel cables were tensioned. Anchors dug in. The crossing began to take shape. Above them, Russian fiber-optic reconnaissance drones lifted off, tethered, immune to jamming, streaming continuous 4K thermal feeds. No Ukrainian strike drones, no mass movement, no immediate threat. Bridge deployment began at 5:01 a.m. Hydraulic arms extended, steel sections unfolded. By 5:04, the span reached roughly 70% extension, placing over 45 tons of forward load onto the chassis. Hydraulic pressure climbed beyond 4,700 psi. The system strained, but held. Then Ukraine changed the tempo. Decoy drones appeared, loud on the spectrum, glowing hot in infrared, cheap, obvious, almost insulting. Russian infantry reacted instantly. A K-12S and shotguns opened fire. Tracers cut through snowfall. Muzzle flashes flared across the bank. To Russian commanders, it looked like desperation. So ask yourself, if the enemy appears to be wasting drones and exposing nothing valuable, do you slow down or do you push through? Russia pushed. The bridge kept extending. Engines behind the bank warmed up. The convoy prepared to move. In doing so, the structure crossed a critical threshold, where balance, load, and timing could no longer be separated. And while Russian eyes stayed fixed on the sky, the decisive threat was already moving at ground level, where jamming didn't matter. At 5:12 a.m., the bridge did not simply fail, it detonated. More than 60 tons of steel now hung forward over the riverbank. Hydraulic pressure surged past 5,200 psi as pumps fought to stabilize a system that was already lost. The T-80 was locked in place, engine roaring, suspension crushed. Then the strike arrived. From 15 kilometers back, 3 fiber-optic FPV drones came in low, beneath 25 feet, accelerating past 170 kilometers per hour. They ignored the deck, ignored the troops, ignored the noise. Their target was structural. The first drone slammed into the primary hydraulic hinge, producing a violent thermal blast that lit the riverbank white-orange for nearly a full second. Hydraulic fluid atomized and ignited. Internal temperatures spiked past 1,800 degrees Celsius. The hinge ceased to exist. Less than 2 seconds later, the second drone struck the secondary load-bearing linkage, snapping steel braces and scattering fragments into the snow. The span lurched downward. The third drone hit as the system tried and failed to compensate, severing remaining control lines. At that point, explosives were no longer the deciding factor. Physics was. With its center of gravity fully committed forward, the bridge collapsed under its own mass. The steel span slammed downward, dragging the 46-ton T-80 chassis nose first into frozen mud. The rear lifted briefly, then crashed back as the assembly locked into a near vertical tilt. The entire sequence took under 5 seconds. When the smoke cleared, the crossing was gone. Not damaged, not disabled, physically erased. The collapse didn't end the fight. It rerouted it. The only crossing for kilometers was blocked. Behind it, at least 15 armored and support vehicles were packed along the approach road, spaced under 25 meters apart. Drivers braked almost simultaneously. Momentum vanished. The formation locked. Recovery teams tried to move first, but angles were wrong. Load was wrong. The riverbank collapsed further beneath the weight. Any pull risked dragging another vehicle forward into the same trap. Electronic warfare surged again. Infantry fired blindly into the storm. But the geometry had changed. The threat was no longer approaching. It was embedded. Minutes later, Ukrainian fires shifted onto the immobilized column, not a barrage, but controlled strikes. Impacts walked methodically along the road, disabling vehicles where they stood. Within 30 minutes, roughly 25 to 30 pieces of heavy equipment were trapped along less than 600 meters of roadway. None could advance. None could reverse. Fuel stopped moving. Ammunition halted. Recovery assets became liabilities. By 6:10 a.m., the decision was unavoidable. The crossing was abandoned. The route was written off. Weeks of planning were neutralized in under an hour, not by overwhelming firepower, but by a single collapse that forced everything behind it to stop. By sunrise, the numbers told the story. Ukraine expended an estimated $9,000 to $12,000 in FPV drones. Russian losses along this axis exceeded $7 million in vehicles, engineering equipment, and stranded logistics. More costly than hardware was time. Clearing the riverbed and restoring a crossing would take weeks under constant observation. Supply corridors feeding over 18 kilometers of frontage were shut down. A bridge meant to open an offensive became the object that sealed it shut. This wasn't a victory of spectacle. It was a victory of timing, geometry, and restraint. In modern warfare, the most decisive blow is often the one that doesn't chase the enemy, but convinces them they cannot move at all. So ask yourself, if you were commanding that crossing, would you have pushed forward or recognized the trap before it closed? Share your assessment in the comments, and if you value clear, data-driven breakdowns like this, like the video and subscribe for the next analysis.